Warehousing operations present many safety and health hazards, but need not be dangerous to workers. You need head protection around items that could fall onto you or when objects are near head level. Some operations call for eye, face, and hearing protection. Wear appropriate gloves when handling materials to prevent cuts, splinters, chemical contact, and other potential injuries. Special clothing may be necessary around chemicals. You need safety shoes around items that could fall onto your feet or around materials handling equipment. Chemical handling calls for protective footwear. The physical condition of the warehouse affects safety. Your host employer must mark aisleways, establish traffic patterns, and provide necessary equipment. You must help keep aisleways clear, especially of debris. Clean up spills immediately. Always walk in pedestrian-only walkways if they are available. Often, equipment and pedestrians must share spaces, so equipment operators and pedestrians must be aware of each other. Warehouses use manual materials handling tools extensively. Never use these aids unless you have been thoroughly trained in their use. For manual handling, the ideal storage area is between knuckle and shoulder height. Normal operations should call for frequently accessed items to be stored in this area. Heavier loads should be stored on lower shelves and lighter items on higher shelves. Use proper equipment and get help when retrieving heavy items or items out of your reach. Use great care when unloading pallets. First, use head, eye, and hand protection when cutting straps or bands from loads. Make sure the bands do not fly out and hit you or other workers. Immediately discard the cut straps or bands since they represent a cutting hazard. Hold and use box cutting knives in the proper manner and never leave a cutting device in the open with its blade exposed. Always cut away from your body and never toward a nearby worker. Store the knife properly when you aren't using it. Make sure you learn correct procedures for working around loading docks. Secure truck trailers and rail cars to prevent them from separating from the docks, and use a dock board to bridge the gap between the trailer or rail car and the dock. Clean up any debris, water, snow, ice, oil, or other substances immediately. Never jump from a loading dock. Use the stairs. Always be aware of trucks in the dock area and make sure the drivers can see you.
Hello, and welcome to your Lions HR New Employee Safety Briefing. Today, we are going to be talking about Safety Data Sheets, or SDSs, the Globally Harmonized System of Labeling, or GHS, and Accident Reporting and Treatment Procedures. You will receive handouts with this material. If you've not yet received a handout, please ask one of your Lions HR staffing representatives to give you one. Just a note, the MSDS is now SDS. The purpose of this safety briefing is that you will know how to safely deal with chemicals, and you will know how to read both labels and pictograms. Take a moment now to pick up and look at your SDS handout. The information contained in the SDS is largely the same as the MSDS, except that now the SDSs are required to be presented in a consistent, user-friendly 16-section format. This brief provides guidance to help workers who handle hazardous chemicals to become familiar with the format and understand the content of the SDSs. Let's take a moment now to review each of these sections. It should be noted that sections 1 through 11 are regulated by OSHA. Section 1 includes identification and includes the product identifier, manufacturer, address, and phone number. Section 2 covers hazard identification and includes all hazards regarding the chemical and required label elements. Section 3 covers the composition and information on the ingredients and includes information on chemical ingredients, trade secret claims. First aid measures include important symptoms or effects, acute or immediate, delayed, and required treatment. Section 5 covers firefighting measures and lists suitable extinguishing techniques, equipment, and chemical hazards from fire. Section 6 covers accidental release measures and lists emergency procedures. Handling and storage lists precautions for safe handling and storage, including incompatibilities. Section 8 covers exposure controls and personal protection. Section 9 covers physical and chemical properties and lists the chemicals' characteristics. Section 10 covers stability and reactivity and lists the chemical stability and possibility of hazardous reactions. Section 11 covers toxicological information and includes routes of exposure, related symptoms, acute and chronic effects, and numerical measures of toxicity. Now let's take a look at the GHS Hazard Communication Standard labels. This section here is for the product identifier. The product identifier is how the hazardous chemical is identified. This can be, but is not limited to, the chemical name, code number, or batch number. The manufacturer, importer, or distributor can decide the appropriate product identifier. The same product identifier must be both on the label and in Section 1 of the SDS. This section is for supplier identification. It will have the company's name, their address, and contact phone numbers. The next section is for hazard pictograms. A pictogram is a graphic symbol used to communicate specific information about the hazards of a chemical. OSHA enforces only 8 of the available 9 pictograms. The environmental pictogram is not enforced by OSHA. The next section is for signal words. Signal words are used to indicate the relative level of severity of the hazard and alert the reader to a potential hazard on the label. There are only 2 words used as signal words. They are danger and warning. Within a specific hazard class, danger is used for the more severe hazards, and warning is used for the less severe hazards. This section is entitled Precautionary Statements. These describe recommended measures that should be taken to minimize or prevent adverse effects resulting from exposure to the hazardous chemical or improper storage or handling. Next, we have hazard statements. Hazard statements describe the nature of the hazards of a chemical, including, where appropriate, the degree of hazard. For example, quote, causes damage to kidneys through prolonged or repeated exposure when absorbed through the skin, unquote. And finally, we have supplemental information. The label producer may provide additional instructions or information that it deems helpful. It may also list any hazards not otherwise classified under this portion of the label. Welcome to your briefing on how to respond to workplace injuries. Now, chances are you're not going to experience any workplace or on-the-job injuries during your tenure here at Lions HR, but we understand that sometimes accidents happen. These are the steps that we would like you to follow in case you experience an on-the-job injury. The first step is to immediately report injuries to your supervisor. We want you to report not only serious injuries, but also minor ones. It is essential that we have a record of the injury so that if you require treatment a day or two after the initial incident, that process can be expedited. When you approach your supervisor and tell them that you've had an on-the-job injury, they in turn are going to call the triage line and connect you with a medical professional. You and the medical professional will assess the nature of your injury and the appropriate treatment for you. The third step is to follow the directions of the triage line medical professional. They may advise that you go to a physician's office. They may advise to go to the emergency room. But we want you to follow the advice of the medical professional because really they're the ones that know best how to treat the injury. The fourth step is to bring or send the work status report to your supervisor. This is so your supervisor knows how to best employ you in keeping with the directions of the physician. We will never contradict a physician's orders. So in keeping with that, if you are kept out of work, for example, 3 days on the work status report, and on the second day you feel good and you want to return to work, that's fine, but you will need to be released by the treating physician in order for us to allow you to come back to work. That'll require that you bring back an updated work status report. Please follow all medical instructions. If there are restrictions in terms of your mobility, lifting restrictions, or if you're advised to stay away from work for a certain amount of time, we want you to follow the medical instructions. The sixth step is to bring or send updated work status reports to your supervisor. Sometimes you'll have a follow-up appointment, and the restrictions on your work will change somewhat. We need you to bring that updated work status report to your supervisor so again, they can employ you in accordance with the restrictions of your physician. Unfortunately, we have to talk about fraud. Fraud is when an employee seeks to receive treatment on the job for an injury that occurred away from the job site. We want you to know that we investigate and prosecute cases of fraud. Instead, stay in close communication with your supervisor. Let them know any changes to your work status report. Let them know your availability so that they can coordinate their schedule. It's always a good idea to at least daily let your supervisor know what your status is. By following these steps, you'll receive appropriate treatment and be restored to work as soon as possible.